I think everyone experiences sleepless nights at some point in their lives. It's also termed as insomnia. Some of the reasons for sleepless nights can be stress, traumatic events, or excessive consumption of caffeine. But my reason isn't one of this. Let me tell you a story about my sleepless nights. All good stories have three parts to it: the setup, the conflict, and the climax. My story only has the first two, and that's why this isn't a good story. But if you still watch this and my story does get a climax someday, then the payoff would be nice. So let's start with the setup. My story starts in Delhi in 2007 when I first started creating. I have no idea why I made these things. But somehow I managed to back up every single thing I've ever created. In 2012, when I had to shift from Delhi to Bangalore, this meant that I had to leave my desktop computer and shift to a laptop. My parents got a good deal for a laptop in Kerala, which was great. We as a family could get to go on a trip to our hometown before they dropped me in Bangalore. But there was a small problem with this. I could not figure out a way to carry all my data with me. Pen drives couldn't fit that much data, and external hard disks were too expensive in 2012 to be a viable solution to my problem. So I ended up taking the internal hard disk of my desktop with me to Bangalore. I don't know what I was thinking when I did this. There was no way I could connect my hard disk to my laptop, at least none that I knew of. Once I reached Bangalore, I spent months looking for ways to make my hard disk work. I went to multiple shops, online websites to find a solution. 6 months later, I found a case for my hard disk. And it was a pain to use it. I had to connect it to a power source. And it took hours to read it. But I retained all my data, and I was finally at peace. And this brings us to the end of the setup, where you hopefully understand my relationship with data. Now, let's move on to the conflict. From 2012 to 2016, I went through some life-changing events in my life. I switched from a standard definition of a digicam to a high definition of a DSLR. I started college, made tons of memories there. I dropped out of college and still sat for my placements. I bought my first bike. I started a company and worked on a lot of interesting projects, and I made enough money to finally buy an external hard disk. And I backed up a lot of my data and memories onto this hard disk. As my company and staff grew, we shifted many offices. And when we moved into the current office space that we have, my hard disk started getting used as an office supply. As a design studio, we would constantly need to transfer files from one individual to the other or between teams. We would use my hard disk to transfer data from one computer to the other. But I wasn't very happy with my personal hard disk being used like this. So one day, I decided to hide my hard disk. And I found a place where I could hide it, and I remember thinking to myself that this is some place where no one will be able to find it. And it turned out to be true. No one ever found that hard disk again, not even me. I've spent years looking for that drive, opened every cupboard I own and every drawer I use multiple times, but I never found it again. And each time I go to sleep, I keep thinking to myself, how did I find a place so secure that I could never find it again? 4 years of my life stored safely away, hidden somewhere. This is what my nightmares are made of. And this is what gives me sleepless nights. Not stress, not traumatic events, and definitely not excessive amounts of caffeine. And now, the final part of the story, the climax. Now this is the part of the story that I don't have, but I hope that I do find my hard disk someday and I solve this mystery. But until then, I guess sleepless nights is all I have. Before I go, I would like to ask you all, where do you think my hard disk is? Comment down below if you think you know where it is, and I'll see you soon. My story starts in Delhi. I don't know if it was in 2007. I'm assuming it was class 7. Class 7 would be 5 years before 2012.